And we are here at the Hale Varsity Club. It's Real Red Reaction on ESPN Lincoln, on KFOR, on 96 Kicks, and of course the Hale Varsity Radio YouTube feed, and also ESPN Lincoln and KFOR Twitter feed. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, Bill Hooks. Hooksy's got his lights turned on down low, and Tim Bob Kitzmiller's in his, dare I say it, wishbone den. Fellas,
there you go.
We don't got to go to the steam room tomorrow. That one was one you had to sweat out from start to finish, but Nebraska able to get it done, 14-13. You know, I always thought you put Nebraska on Friday nights because, well, 3 times now in X number of years, right, in the Big Ten. But, you know, it's the brand appeal. Well, Nebraska's going to come to your stadium, they'll travel, and there'll be eyeballs watching. All of that's true. But this, unfortunately, resembled Denver-Indy last night with how ugly a ball game it was. But Nebraska's defense packs their hard hat, does their job in the second half, tackled much better in the second half, and they hang on to win. Not quite the cover, Elijah, but 14-13. Nebraska will take 1,413 days since back-to-back wins in the Big Ten.
And the first time you've been above 500 in Big Ten play since you took down Illinois in week 1 of conference play back in 2019. So it's been a while since Nebraska has been here. It wasn't pretty, as Schmidt said, but ugly win is better than pretty loss. I've said that a couple times this season because there's been a couple ugly wins, but that's the fact of the matter. An ugly win is better than a pretty loss.
We always start these Real Red Reactions with a word, a little Stephen Colbert, and the word is ugly. Another word could be used is gritty.
Nebraska, though, I was going to use.
Nebraska's the word, the team, though, that ended up being tough enough. Tim Bob, we'll get to your comments here in just a moment. You can find us again on 96 Kicks, the Facebook stream, ESPN Lincoln and KFOR Facebook, along with Twitter on KFOR, ESPN Lincoln, and Hale Varsity YouTube channel with Real Red Reaction on ESPN. But Hooksy, before we get to you, Tim Bob, a thought or two on the ball game, bud.
Well, I thought it was a gritty win, great adjustments on the defensive side. You give about 300 yards in the first, or 200-something yards in the first half, and you shut them down to 47, 50 yards in the second half. You got to give a lot of credit to that defense who bowed their neck in that second half, kept them in the game, got some opportunities, got some turnovers, and they were able to finally capitalize on it with a big play and that quick change late in that game. But I think this game, gritty was the word I would use. Gritty, ugly, a lot of penalties. The officials helped both teams out at times, but I really think the defense stepped up and made this game winnable. Because there was one point, you know, they're down 13 and they're driving in that second quarter, right before half, and I'm thinking they go down 3 scores, they're done. And they got to stop. They got the turnover, went the halftime down, and came out and played great in the second half defensively. So, gritty was the word I'd use.
Hooksy, what are you going with?
Hey, fellas, I apologize. I'm not the night before. I don't know why my camera's not working. I apologize. But I agree with Tim Bob. This is a gritty, not pretty performance. But I would say this. A few years ago, this is not a team that would get a win like this. And this is impressive. A Bill Bush-led defense that overcame a Whipple called offense tonight. And that'll be a big talking point about 4th and 1, shotgun, empty backfield. And I know we'll get to that point, but Nebraska gets it done. And again, like I said, a couple years ago or whatever the time frame is, they don't win this game, but it's a Nebraska victory. And you sit at the top of the West right now.
Percentage points you do, and you know, to your point, Nebraska had lost 10 consecutive one-score games. The last time they won a one-score game was at Rutgers. And Nebraska, to your point, Bill, listen, I think there's some things Nebraska want back offensive game plan wise. You're going to live and die by the Whipple sword this year. That's empty on 4th and 1 when everyone in the building's
Oh,
going, what
jeez.
the hell, right?
What
But
the hell?
you hit on a couple of the shots, specifically the touchdown to go ahead to Palmer. You had that sudden change. The secondary came up big. Rutgers had no ability whatsoever to throw the football. The kid they kept putting in handed out 3 interceptions. Vedral was 3 for 10. And I tell you, he got his thumb jacked again. But from a box score standpoint, that first half, that first quarter where you're down 10-0, Rutgers hit for 43 and 34 yards, 29 yards to Cruikshank again that got him that second field goal. They missed a field goal, then they had a block punt. Nebraska's D held them to just 3. So Nebraska won the turnover battle 3 picks to 2. But that blocked punt kind of counts to me as the third turnover, so you at least finish even. 2.5 yards a carry for Nebraska on the ground, but some tough yards. I just think Nebraska, if you had it to do over again offensively, to criticize for a second. One, Casey was never really in rhythm because he was running for his life. But the check down and the intermediate was there. You didn't have to go big all the time, even though you have that ability. Flip it around, you pick your spots to go downtown. But I think Nebraska could have dinked and dunked more than he did. They transitioned into that more towards the second half. But I can't say enough about the 3rd and 7. The 3rd and 7 to eventually burn the clock after the touchdown, of course. And that was with Vokalek, who also got his first touchdown as a Husker. And that was big. Tackling wise, you had a few missed tackles. Rutgers got outside occasionally, but overall, pass rush was pretty decent. In Nebraska, after that first drive, Elijah really had the challenge at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, offensive line, just to get negative on you for just a second, should have lost Nebraska this football game tonight. It didn't. That's a testament to your defense getting a few takeaways, really shutting down Rutgers the entirety of the second half. The defense went and pitched a shutout in the second half, fewer than 100 yards of offense from Rutgers in the second half. That was huge, but Nebraska, they actually got outgained offensively. Rutgers with 348 yards offensively. Nebraska is 304. The team's about even passing-wise, 233 for Rutgers, 232 for Nebraska. And Nebraska only 72 yards on the ground tonight, 29 attempts for 72 yards, a 2.5-yard average, 9 penalties on each of these teams. Nebraska, about 2 more minutes of possession time. Pretty even throughout, most of these stats except for rushing yards where Rutgers actually outgained Nebraska. And when you hear that in a Big Ten football game, usually that's a recipe for a loss. But Nebraska, the defense stepped up, got a couple takeaways in the second half. That's the difference. Gave Nebraska a short field to go take the lead on a great throw and a great catch by Casey and Trey Palmer. That's the difference in the game is the defense being able to go get a couple takeaways. But, I rate this performance as a whole for Nebraska as a C-, maybe a D+. It was not good. You got the win at the end of the day, but I don't feel much better about this Husker team after watching this game. I might feel a little bit worse about this Husker team after the game, aside from the fact that last year's team, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, all those teams would have found a way to lose this game. Nebraska pulled it out. They got it done. That's a sign of encouragement, I guess, moving forward. But, Lord, it doesn't get much uglier than that in an ugly win.
No, Tim Bob, Nebraska, that's the thing you carry forward with a 1-point win against Rutgers. You found a way to get it done, and that's 2 weeks in a row, one possession.
Well, a couple of things. In the first half, Rutgers was the more aggressive team, at the line of scrimmage. In the second half, Nebraska figured out a way to flip that around, and those adjustments have not happened at Nebraska. They've gone in at halftime at leads, and the other teams made adjustments and come out and really shut them down. This was kind of a flip in that. It was an ugly game. It was an ugly Big Ten win, which is what you need. So ugly Big Ten wins because that's football, and the fact that they won the game, where they got outrushed, where they time of possession was about even. They didn't play great. Offensive line didn't give the protection they needed, but they figured out a way to win. That to me is encouraging. And I saw it. I'll say this on the sideline: the coaching staff seems to be much more engaged in terms of offense, defense, head coach discussing plays, and then just fighting for every possession down the stretch. I mean, I go back to what Kranak said about what was happening in the Northwestern game, that lack of leadership. The leadership is there on that sideline from that coaching staff. They all seem to be connected, and the team takes that from their coach, I think, in terms of fighting for those extra possessions and still making adjustments. I really like that they stayed with the man-to-man defense on the outside, even though they gave up some penalties and they gave up some big possessions early. They didn't shy away from it. They didn't back off. And I think that's a great testament, not only to Bill Bush, but also to that defense saying, I trust you, go make plays.
Look, see, if you want to look at this moving forward, you're going to continue to have momentum. There's going to be one of these a weekend in the Big Ten where it's a rock fight. And
Yeah,
you look at Mickey now, 2-1 in Big Ten play, well, 2-0 in Big Ten play. But to kind of piggyback off of what Tim Bob had to say, it's 1,000% correct. Where there's engagement, there's coaching up, and there's really to go Ted Lasso belief. And I keep coming back to that, where the guys were in it till the end, continuing to throw punches.
fellas, can we say this? Like, I know the cliche is a W is a W, but does it mean anything right now? A W is a W for Nebraska. To get the win on the road in a blackout at Rutgers, whatever the sellout thing was, is what it is. But the fact that this team has toughness right now, it shows me nothing more than the Anthony Grant hit on the sideline that powered through the DB. It tells you what this team might be about. Again, this team doesn't do this 2 or 3 years ago. They fought through adversity. They fought through turnovers. They fought through whatever they dealt with. They fought through injuries. You can say the freshman Malcolm, who had a tough start, who found a way to make plays after plays at the end. And this team they're on the momentum. They found a way to find some energy late. And I don't think enough credit's going to Bill Bush right now. This team is lining up. This team is aggressive. They're making adjustments at halftime. And in halftime, I was very frustrated with this team. Right? We all
There's
were.
not any Jameson left in the Hale Varsity Club.
Listen,
I mean,
I think
the world was frustrated with it.
Listen, I know you can't see me right now. My phone's messed up, but I'm drinking a Crown right now.
Are you sure? Is there any Crown left?
No, I don't know if there is. I'm at a buddy's house, and I'm like, what is happening? But I thought to myself, you know what? They're going to find a way. And this team it's not pretty. And it's not going to be pretty in the Big Ten. It's just going to be gritty. And if that's the way we have to do it, then let's live by it. We all don't agree with what Whip was doing tonight at certain times. But Casey Thompson, he gets hit, he gets up, he comes back. Vokalek gets hit, he comes back. Anthony Grant, tough night, he comes back. But we find a way to do this, and this is what Nebraskans have been trying to figure out for years right now. And if this is the way we're going to do it, let's do it. Right?
A lot of heart.
A W is a W. A lot of heart, a lot of energy. And whatever the case is, those kids get to feel a winning flight back to Lincoln tonight.
Tim Bob, you wanted to jump in, buddy? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, off of what Hooksy said, that the kids are buying in. I was thinking the other day, I said, and I hate to speak for Nebraskans because I'm an Okie, but my perception is they just want that competitiveness, that willingness to stay in the fight, to keep driving, keep grinding day by day, right? And that's what's been missing, is that mentality that every play, screw up, go back, come back, let's do it again. And I think Nebraska's can respect that, even if it's an ugly win, even if it's a 1-point win. It's something that Nebraskans can say, hey, our kids played tough, they played competitive, they were in the game, they didn't quit when they were behind. I mean, I think those are the type of character traits that Nebraska fans want to see from their team. Would you agree?
Well, that's probably the big difference, Tim Bob, that I've seen has been that mentality. They're fighting, and I mean, even going back 3 weeks ago, the biggest change I've seen is now Nebraska has back-to-back weeks where in a game that you'd expect them to find a way to lose a year ago, a month ago, they have now gone back-to-back games where they've found a way to go and win a football game. And that comes down to mentality. That's not skill. That's mentality. Yeah. Like Nebraska's had this skill to go win football games the past couple of years, but it's been untimely errors. It's been mistakes in game management. It's been all those sorts of things. Now Nebraska has back-to-back weeks of going and finding a way to win a football game. It may not be pretty, but they've gone and done it. They've been able to take care of their shortfalls throughout a game. Tonight it was the offensive line. That offensive line was absolutely atrocious. I think I can say that with comfort.
Trash.
Bad.
It was
a bad offensive line performance. They could not run the ball. They could not keep Casey safe. Casey got knocked out of the game at one point because of this offensive line not being able to keep him safe. Even
Casey's wearing Kevlar, all right?
I mean, the line, I know it's different personnel, but the line couldn't even keep the punter safe. The punter was taking licks out in the football field. Like that you can't have that. You got to protect both the quarterback and the punter. Nebraska couldn't do either of those things tonight. They had a punt blocked, and they still found a way, despite all the adversity, despite everything not going their way, to go and win a football game. And like, what else could you ask for? You're battling through everything. It feels like going wrong in the first half. You're battling through even stuff going wrong in the second half, and you still go find a way to win a football game. And that's not that these players are doing anything different. The players are going in battling. It's the coaching staff putting them in a position to go win a football game and giving them that opportunity, not holding them back through stupid mistakes, through stupid play calls, even though there were some stupid play calls tonight. It wasn't the difference in the football game. The players went out and won it, and the coaches gave them that opportunity to go out and do it.
Nebraska had composure.
Yes.
They had composure to not panic at half, down 13. They had composure when they wet themselves in that opening drive, right? Penalty derailed that. They kept on swinging, right? And you look at the win probability here by ESPN. Rutgers scores first. They're, at a 56% win probability. At one point, Rutgers had an 89% win probability in this ball game. And then it slowly kind of churned away. And, we have some comments to get to here. Matt chimes in and says, great win. Not a great game, but it can still be a great win. Excuse me. Guys, this reminded me of a couple ball games as Nebraska was on their rise. And I'm not even comparing 2022 to 1993. But you had a couple of ball games that got real dicey for Nebraska. One was UCLA, Nebraska. Trev Alberts saved that one, 3 sacks. Nebraska won that 14-13, early season game in the Rose Bowl. And then it's a Thursday night game against Oklahoma State. Baron Miles blocks a punt for a touchdown, and Nebraska ends up winning that thing way easier than it looked, 27-13. But for the longest time, Nebraska was down 13 rip in that game. And then you can even fast forward a little bit to the Missouri game, the Sioux breakout game in the Tsunami, where Nebraska, reels off 27 fourth quarter points. But there's been moments in Nebraska football history where Nebraska's down on that teetering point total, where you're at 13, they get one more at 16, and then you're in deep. Or it goes greater than that. To be quite honest, I mean, this thing should have been a 24-27 spot for Rutgers if they were worth a damn. They're a bad football team. They probably won't win a game this year again. And I don't know about Indiana. They're going to get murdered by Michigan tomorrow. We can talk Purdue here. Let's have a drink and enjoy a win if you're a Nebraska fan. But Purdue looks pretty tough. There's some reality about this team. They've got some playmakers and some gamers. Casey Thompson's a gamer. Palmer's a playmaker. He got blanketed a lot of the night, but Washington stepped up. Vokalek with some key catches. And you've got a guy that just loves to unleash some fury in Grant. Now, you saw one bad series from who's the kid out of Minnesota? Help me out. I'm blanking.
Yeah.
The right tackle.
Benhart.
Benhart. Sorry about that. Forgive me. I'm better than that usually. The Benhart was out, and then it was Hunter Anthony the rest of the night, and good. I mean, Nebraska had some issues at tackles. You know, when the pocket's collapsing, both tackles are back by Casey's ankles. So a little bit better of a game plan. Whipple's known for a controlled passing game, crossing routes, short little hitches to the tight end. Moving forward, let's see more of that to kind of set up your run. Well, because it's there.
And I'll just say you can only game plan around a bad offensive line so much.
Very fair. But
whenever you can only run the ball for 70 yards in a football game, you can only do so much in the passing attack because defense is just going to leave two high safeties the entire game if their front seven can handle it. You can even drop back and run a high cover 3, cover 4 if you want, and just really eliminate a passing attack if you can't get anything going on the ground. That's why Nebraska was able to make hay last week, is they were able to open up some holes for Anthony Grant. That's why the offense looked rough this week. I didn't see any really change in play significantly from a guy like Casey Thompson or the wide receivers. They were getting open at about the same clip. It comes down to being able to run the ball and force a defense to throw an extra guy into the box. Make them play a single high safety. That's going to open up a lot for you. You can only game plan so much around a bad offense line, especially once you drop back to pass. And now you can, as a defense, feel free to stunt, bring extra guys, whatever you want to do to confuse an offensive line and put a little pressure in your secondary. You can do that if you think you're going to get home. So that's why this game looks so rough. I think Nebraska wins this game by a couple of scores based on how the defense played, if they can have some confident offensive line play. I just don't think that's going to be a reality moving forward here this season. It's going to come down to your defense being able to keep you in games here from here on out, but I don't look too far ahead. Just looking at this game here tonight, the defense answered the call. The offense got done whenever they had to. They stepped up. They got themselves a win, and Nebraska is atop the Big Ten West. Who would have thought?
Yep.
It's a Big Ten win, isn't it, Tim Bob?
Well, do you want to say something, Hooksy? Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, Elijah, you nailed it. What can be said about what Bill Bush has done in his short turn with this defense? I know it's Indiana, it's Rutgers, but that's 2 shutouts in the Big Ten.
Are you clapping or are you just that loud, buddy?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm impressed by what Bill Bush has done so far with this second half defense. Typically, Nebraska will go in and make adjustments that don't make sense, but we come back on the second half, and what we've done is pitch 2 Big Ten shutouts in second halves. That's monumental what's going on in Nebraska right now.
And the biggest thing, Hooks, is that defensive front. Those first 3 games, that defensive front was catching blocks and playing not to win. Tonight they were running stunts. They were coming off with setting up their linebackers to come and get after the quarterback in the second half. That, even to the end, that play where the defensive lineman, I apologize, I forgot his name, jumps up the Alabama transfer and tips that ball. I mean, they're just making plays, gritty plays, getting in the backfield. You had the big guy, get a couple of sacks or at least a pull down there. He wasn't even breaking the line of scrimmage 3 weeks ago. So he's got that defensive line, which allows those linebackers to play in their zone. You don't have to bring pressure to get home, but when you do, it's a big play. And so I'm with you, Hooks. I'm really impressed with what he's done with that defensive line and the aggressiveness I'm seeing out of them. Linebackers are flying to the football. They still got some tackling issues. You got a young corner out there, but they're not afraid to go and make plays and run down the field. And you live and die with that when you're playing man-to-man defense. You got to have a corner with a short memory. And that young kid, they picked on him, and he got the interception at the end of the game. So, a little redemption there. That's character stuff. I wanted to say before I jump out, that 2 Tampa 2 that Rutgers played really forced. They wanted to go down the field. Casey Thompson throws the deep ball well. Whipple likes to throw the ball down the field, and he threw that interception at first one because he wouldn't recognize it's a 2 deep secondary. The corner's going to drop off. The safety's going to be there. It's a tight window. I think they had to make those adjustments. I don't disagree that going empty on 4th down or 3rd and whatever is not my choice, but I think it took Casey some time to understand I can't go down the field against this 2 deep secondary. Like Elijah said, if I can't run the football.
You're going to have a certain look to go downtown, and they hit it for that go-ahead touchdown. Some more comments here were Real Red Reaction live here from the Hale Varsity Club. Tim Bob's in his wishbone den. Hooksy's in the dark. But it's a tribute to the black shirts in the second half. We are Facebooking live here on 96 Kicks.
I think it could also be a tribute to Hooksy's current state, blacked out.
Yes.
Hey, relax.
ESPN
I'm
Lincoln Facebook, KFOR Facebook, and KFOR and ESPN Lincoln Twitter, Hale Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and then watch us live as well on Real Red Reaction TV on YouTube. So Matt said, great win. Corey says, what an ugly win, but we'll take it. The defense certainly deserves the game ball. Brennan says, just a gritty Big Ten win, and we finally found a way to win. I think a lot of the upcoming games may look like this. And it's nice knowing we have the capability to close it out. Artez Craig, Rogers' brother. We love Artez, over-the-road trucker. Great road win. Go Big Red. We will take it.
I think that final sentence there from Artez is the perfect way that Husker Nation's going to sum it up tonight. We'll take it.
We'll take it. Lathan chimes in, says, stay the course. We needed a leader as a coach, and so far we have one in Mickey. Mickey leads momentum. It's so big in college football, keeping our cool and keeping fighting. Bill Bush literally makes so many adjustments on defense. Rock Westfall, our old buddy, chimes in from Wisconsin. Nebraska overcame itself, and Rutgers with guts, smarts, resilience, toughness, never quit coaching staff, and a team coming together, courageous, determination, and resilient. Vic, have a gummy, man, and ice up, brother. This one was a bit of a slobber knocker. Well, the great news is they got the win. I'm going to ignore the dumpster fire in the first half and the 4th down call and just feel good for it. You know what a popular narrative is right now too, and it's easy to kick dirt on the recently departed. But that's out there on social media, and it's, well, again, you'll take it as a Nebraska fan. It's absolutely better than the alternative that you're used to, but there is minimal belief that this would have happened under the previous regime.
Yeah, some comments from Mickey Joseph post-game. The first one that he opened up with was, that's 2 weeks in a row. I'm really happy for them. They've been beat up and they're feeling fresh now. We want to say that Nebraska didn't know how to win, but they've worked hard to get to this point that they can go close out a game in the 4th quarter. More from Mickey Joseph. About being first in the Big Ten West, saying first place at the end of the season, not right now. Nebraska's current situation is a fake first place. That's according to the head coach, Mickey Joseph. So he's clearly not relishing this win. It's on to the next one for Mickey Joseph. But I think the team, there's a video of them celebrating down on the field as the Rutgers fans were streaming out. They're going to enjoy this one for a night. And that's the classic football coachism. You enjoy this one for a night. We wake up tomorrow, we watch the film, we're on to the next one. The Huskers are going to enjoy this one tonight. They deserve to enjoy this one tonight. As a Husker fan sitting here in Lincoln, it was not pretty. I'm not going to enjoy it very much, but I wasn't the one down the field. I didn't work my tail off to go get a win. Those Huskers did, especially that defense. They worked their tail off. The offense made plays when they needed to. They got it done, and that's Elijah's big takeaway from the night is, holy hell, Nebraska finally found a way to win a one-score game.
our friend Matt Schick of ESPN and Sirius XM, Nebraska gets first one-possession game win for the first time since 1984. He's joking, of course, but it's been a while. So here's something that has happened since changes have been made. Time management. Mickey kept milking that clock and had his timeouts. Psyche, there is belief. Second halves have been good, specifically defensively. The vibe's been good. They found a way to get it handled. As our old boy Evan Bland tweets out a picture of a half broken and half corn cob in the back of the Rutgers end zone. The adjustments, though, to your point, Hooksy, have been good. And, Nebraska is on to Purdue next weekend. You'll take it. Can chime in. More comments keep coming in here as Matt chimes in. As long as we keep finding a way to win, that's all that matters. Vic, impressed by the adjustments. Jeff, love to see a Husker win. And Al's not a fan of the Zebras. Did these refs get their certificate out of a Cracker Jacks box?
Okay, do you want to talk about that for a second? Because I hopped on post-game last week, and last week after the Indiana game, I said, you know what? I can understand why Husker fans weren't happy with the refs, but at least they were consistent, and everything I saw did, in fact, look like a penalty. I'm going to change my tune this week. Those refs were not – that's the type of game where they as refs are going to go watch the film back either tonight or tomorrow morning, and they're going to say, wow, maybe we did miss some stuff. Because the fans at Rutgers weren't happy. The sidelines weren't happy with those refs. The Husker fans here in Lincoln weren't happy with those refs. It was bad all around. I even saw national college football writers hopping on Twitter saying, what the hell is going on with these referees? The offensive pass interferences were suspect.
I didn't like the Palmer OPI.
3 or 4 of those different offensive pass
I've never seen a college football game, pro football game, high school game where you have 4 offensive pass interference penalties. Well, at least 4. I mean that's crazy. And none of them were blatant. All of them were just kind of running down the field. I mean,
a little bit of a swim move.
Stopped and the guy went by. It was a pass interference, offensive pass interference. I've never in my life seen that many offensive pass interferences. It was nuts. I mean, the officials were awful, and they influenced the game.
Scott Frost is now trending on Twitter. Chris Heddy, former World Herald reporter, number of times winning back-to-back games against Big Ten teams. Mickey Joseph won. Scott Frost won. Hooksy went to get more ice. Apparently, Elijah went on a beer run. Our old boy Lars Anderson says, based on this game against Rutgers, I'm surmising that Frost missed many, many recruiting calls. Rutgers appear more talented than Nebraska. That was a first-half tweet. Yahoo College Football tweeting out, Nebraska in one-possession games under Scott Frost, 5-22. Nebraska in one-possession games under Mickey Joseph, 1-0. So it's
Can I say something here?
Let's do it.
I'm really happy for Adrian Martinez and the way he's playing at Kansas State. I realize that's kind of off subject, but he's really played outstanding and played the way you hoped he would the last couple of weeks. Now, he played horrible against Tulane, but he's had a couple of weeks where you go, man, I'm really happy for that kid. Whatever, scars he took with him to Kansas State, from Nebraska, I was really happy, even though he beat Oklahoma and then had a great win last week. So I'll just wanted to throw that in there since we brought up Scott Frost.
Duly noted. Well, the reason I brought him up is because he's trending right now. Nebraska just won a 1-point game on the road.
Right.
And what's trending right now isn't Mickey, isn't Nebraska, isn't Black Shirts, isn't college football. Scott Frost is trending. And this was pretty good. Parker tweets in, Nebraska fumbling on the kneel down is the missing man tribute to Scott Frost. Man.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's tough.
it's pretty nasty still out there, man. Hooksy, you're back. Did you get more ice?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't need more ice. Like, I'm just so happy for this football team. I'm really happy for this football team. And whatever is happening right now, the culture, the gritty, not pretty persona that's happening, because this is not a team that does this. We have not seen this in a long time. We've seen guys go out with injuries. We saw bad play calls. This is not a team that overcomes these battles right now. And again, I know it's Indiana, it's Rutgers, but these are games that we lose, that we've lost. And what's happening is they're finding a way right now. At 4th and 1, empty set calls, a drop pass, a offensive pass interference, or whatever. But I'm just so happy for this team that they get a chance to ride the plane back, to be happy, because most of these kids or the transfers or wherever they come from have learned a losing culture, and now they're winning. They get to experience this win, and whatever Mickey's doing or what's happening at Nebraska is now good. Hopefully, can become contagious to winning.
You have comments more from Mickey Joseph. Asked about 4th and 1, the play call from Whipple. He says he would not question Whipple on his play calling, going empty there. No, Joseph said, I'm going to let Whipple call his game. You don't question guys.
You had 72 yards rushing tonight. Do you really trust Nebraska to get a yard running the football? I sure as hell don't. I don't necessarily agree with going empty, if Mark Whipple says we have to throw the ball to get the first down and he thinks empty is the way to go, I might disagree with that, but he's the guy who gets to see this team in practice every single day. And I can probably agree with the fact that I don't trust Nebraska's rushing attack, how it looks tonight, to go pick up 1 yard. Now, I don't like empty either, but Mark Whipple knows a hell of a lot more about football than I do, and it's super easy to go second guess another guy that is calling plays whenever you're sitting at home on your TV and you go, well, that was stupid. They had it covered perfectly.
I trust General Grant to get me a yard. Bounce it outside, run off the edge.
I don't trust the offensive line to give him space to go get a yard.
Don't run it between the tackles. He'll get a yard by himself outside.
Yeah, and again,
I trust him on 1-on-11 in that situation more than I trust Casey having time to throw the football.
Well, I'll just say, if you are going to throw the football, my humble take is you do go get a single back pistol look. You load it up. You bring in 2 tight ends. You bring in an extra tackle, and you have 1 wide receiver out wide. And you go run play action if you're going to run that. A 1 or 2 man route on an RPO. That's how I would go do that football or that play there on 4th and 1. But maybe Whipple saw something. So it's easy to second guess a guy whenever you're sitting on your couch, and I'm sure they're going to have a look at that in film. But it's one of those things I'm sure we'd be talking about that play a hell of a lot more if Nebraska ended up losing this football game tonight. But because Nebraska gets a win, that's one of those learning lessons that you get to get in a win as opposed to a loss. If it's a learning lesson in a loss, it looks a lot worse than a learning lesson in a win. But because it's a win as a football team, I think as a head coach, you sweep that under the rug and you file it away for your film session tomorrow morning and say, all right, Mark, now you get to explain yourself. What were you thinking here going empty on 4th-1? But for now, move on and enjoy the win from a football coaching staff perspective.
Keep your comments coming here with the Real Red Reaction show stream only as we go deep into the night on a Friday. Real Red Reaction. Watch us on YouTube. And we're on Facebook Live with KFR, check that, 96 Kicks, KFOR, ESPN Lincoln, and Twitter. 3 different Twitter feeds to follow us on. That is KFOR's Twitter feed, ESPN Lincoln's Twitter feed, and Hail Varsity Radio's Twitter feed at H Varsity Radio. Matt says Bush is proving himself. And Brennan was talking about the O-line there. Don't get me wrong. The O-line is still rough, but am I crazy to think Casey induces a lot of pressure on himself? His drop back seems really deep, and he gets happy feet. I like how Casey hangs in the pocket. I just wish at times he'd get rid of it quicker. That's just my take, but I'm
Yeah,
not a quarterback.
and it's hard to blame a guy for not trusting his pocket and getting happy feet whenever he does trust his pocket and he gets blown up and he gets a shot to the ribs. It's hard to blame a guy. It's one thing if it's Russell Wilson last night, he's bailing from a clean pocket. That's one thing. It's another thing if the guy who's bailing from a clean pocket is a guy that's getting hit consistently every single time whenever he does step in there and make a throw. You want a tough quarterback, but also your quarterback is the guy that's going to make you he makes the offense tick. That's the best way to put it. And we saw Chubba Purdy get a couple plays today and a couple plays last week. I don't think Nebraska feels good about their backup quarterback situation.
No,
I think they do want Casey to feel safe. And if I'm Mark Whipple, I'm telling Casey, hey, if you're feeling pressure, either get that ball thrown away, throw it over a receiver's head out to the sideline, or get the hell out of there, because at this point in the season, it's much more valuable to have Casey healthy as opposed to Casey to step in to a hit and make a throw and get one first down and then be out the rest of the game.
Now, I'd like to see Smothers get more. If you're going to bring in that package, I think you bring in Smothers and that run-pass option, that option game a little bit. I know that's probably not Whipple's thing, but that would be a change-up I'd love to see as a backup quarterback, as the same to Purdy, which really to me seems like just another drop-back quarterback who doesn't have the confidence or the ability that Casey does. So if you're going to bring in that situational quarterback, I'd rather bring in and see Smothers come in and run a little option, change it up a little bit, take some pressure on the defense. But again, that's just me.
So were you guys, let's just do a little honesty here around the table. Were you out on this team, on this game? Did you think Nebraska was going to lose at halftime, or did you have a little bit of faith? What was the faith-o-meter like for you? At what point did you think once they got into the end zone and then Rutgers didn't answer? I don't know. I'm not making this up. I was pretty good at predicting tonight.
Yeah. Schmitty was sitting at the table. I can confirm. Schmitty called the last pick. Schmitty called just about everything that was going on in the football game. So I'll give you that one.
No bribery here, I promise.
Yeah. First of all, can I tell you how good you guys look? The hair, the bush light. You guys look amazing, by the way. So, but here's the deal. I felt pretty confident at halftime based on the couple of Vedral throws. They were kind of fluky at times, right? He didn't look very good.
He went up against the freshman with a pre-jacked thumb. He threw a couple punts up there in single coverage, and I got him rolling, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And Schmidt, you nailed it. Like, there were a couple like lollipops that the freshman just didn't make a play on. And again, by the way, I'll say this: credit Bill Bush or whoever said, "Hey, freshman, let's just take a minute. Why don't you come sit with me? We'll make an adjustment. You come sit down." That doesn't happen in the Frost era. The Frost era is like, "Hey, by the way, just keep going. We'll figure it out." But they set
What's your star recruiting ranking?
Yeah, they set him down and said, "Hey, let's take a break. Let's take a peek at this, and you get back in the game, right?" And he ends up coming up with the interception that seals the deal. Because, I mean, again, Vedral wasn't very good. Nebraska wasn't playing very well at the half. Bill Bush makes adjustments, and you win the football game. I'll go back to it and say this: a W is a W. And credit Bill Bush again for making adjustments. It's a second straight shutout.
Well, not only credit Bill Bush, I think credit all 11 guys in that defense too. I mean, I've seen Husker defenses in the past that have rolled over whenever the opposition, especially whenever you're in enemy territory. And I'm talking about the stadium, not the other side of the field. I'm talking whenever you're on the road and the other team goes and punches you in the mouth on that first drive. Rutgers drove down the field. I think me and Schmidt looked at each other here at the Hill Varsity Club and said, uh-oh, when Rutgers drove the length of the field relatively with ease. That power rushing attack was working for Rutgers. Noah Vedral had his one completion in the first drive that went for 40 yards, I think, 35.
33.
And when all those things happened, I think Schmidt and I looked at each other and had that uh-oh moment. But the defense held it together. It wasn't perfect. No, Rutgers had another drive on the next one. But after that, it was little to no offense from Rutgers the rest of the football game. And that was after Nebraska's defense got punched in the mouth. So full credit to them. Bill Busch made some adjustments, yes. But that Husker defense could have rolled over early and said, well, we're not getting any help from the offense. We're doing all we can out here, but it's clearly not enough, and just rolled over. They did not do that tonight. And while we can give some credit to Bill Busch, yes, I want to give credit to this Husker defense because they've been the brunt of a lot of jokes around the state of Nebraska over the past couple of weeks. And I am sure that a few guys on that defense had that sinking feeling after the first drive of, you know what, maybe the media was right, maybe the fans were right, maybe we're not very good at all. But they held it together, and they went and pitched a damn fine performance in the second half to give that offense a chance to win the football game. The offense was terrible, and I'm sure Casey Thompson took the offensive lineup to dinner this past week. He better take out all 11 guys in that defense out to dinner this week for keeping them in that football game. That defense, all 11 guys, credit to them. They all deserve a game ball based on what they did in the second half to go give that offense a chance to win the football game.
Well, and let's be honest, too. You win and you lose as a team, but no more Momo roadies.
No, absolutely not.
He's going to be treated like a pinata. We may find a food truck for y'all, but we're not going fine dining anytime soon.
If they're going to let the D-line treat him like a pinata, he's going to take him to Chico's or something, get that Mexican food.
Get it handled. We're here at the Hale Varsity Club. Tim Bob's in the Wishbone Den, and Hooksy is, well, he's just in the dark right now, alone with his thoughts, sharing them with you on a Real Red Reaction. So we talked a little bit here about the defense, the offense, the anatomy of this ball game. We're all a little caught up in the wow right now because Nebraska won a one-score game, right? Which is nuts to even talk about. We're caught up in the moment that Nebraska has won 2 in a row.
They did, I will say, they did go win a football game, one score against a bad football team in Rutgers. I don't think Nebraska is great right now. I think they have a lot of work to do if they really want to be in contention for the Big Ten West. But I think you and I are in agreement, Schmidt, just that, wow, they got it done. It's okay it was against a bad football team. Save the games against the good teams. Save it for later. Save your worry about that for later. For now, let's enjoy what the Huskers did tonight because that is not something we've seen in a couple of years of Nebraska's ability to go win a close football game.
Nebraska's 3 wins away from bowl eligibility.
There you go.
Right now, my mind shifts to where do those come from?
Well, I was just looking at Purdue's record, looking ahead. They played some good ball and they played some really bad. They won a 2-point game. Just looking at the stats here. They had to go a 28-26 win over Florida Atlantic. Lost to Syracuse. They did beat Minnesota last week. And then they had a pretty good showing against Penn State. But, I think Purdue's always one of those games Nebraska struggles with. They've had some wins on the road. They've lost some on the road. But, I look ahead. Obviously, Wisconsin's got some trouble with the changing coach. You've got, the pig farmers coming up, and you never know how that's going to go. But Iowa's not cutting a fat hog over there in terms of their offensive performance. So, I think there's 3 wins out there. I don't know which ones they're going to be, but I think there's 3 wins out there. But I'm an optimist.
I love your optimism. Based on how they played tonight, I don't know.
This was a stepping stone, Chris. This was a win, a 1-point win on the road, an ugly Big Ten win. You got to have those to grow in the program.
Well, we got a comment in from John here, I think, says it pretty well. Let's pump the brakes. Still happy as hell, but let's see how we feel next week at Purdue. That's about right. I'm happy as hell for this win tonight. It's a big win for this Husker team. It's still confidence boosting despite the fact that it was ugly, but your real litmus test is next week against Purdue. You've gone and beaten 2 teams that on paper you should have beaten, in Indiana and Rutgers. You've gotten both of those done. And neither of them was an entirely impressive win, but a win's a win, and it changed some perception around Husker Nation surrounding this team. But the litmus test is next week with Purdue. Purdue's a team that, I mean, I was going to say they're in contention for the Big Ten West. Everyone's still in contention for the Big Ten West, so that's not saying all that much. But
Right.
Purdue is a team that you know what they are. They're a team that is going to be somewhere middle of the road in the Big Ten West this season. I don't think they're good enough to go win it. I don't think they're bad enough to go lose it. It's a team that you need to go beat if you want to be in contention for the Big Ten West. That's why it's your litmus test, and that's why I think a lot of Husker Nation is saying, sure, a win is a win, me included. Saying a win is a win, but I'm not all that impressed with what I saw tonight, aside from some spot things that I can say of Nebraska. Oh, no. we got to retweet this.
Oh my goodness.
Damon, thank you for the picture, my friend. Just sucking a beer down.
God bless you, Damon.
That's pretty good. Yeah, cheers, Husker Nation. Sorry, I just saw that and I was like, oh.
I'm throwing up a bite or two.
Man. So, fellas, Nebraska gets the win. We've got a few minutes left here in Real Red Reaction. We'll get to more of your comments. 24-hour rule, indeed. Matt Jacob says the defense has really stepped it up for Mickey. Guys, let's go to the emotion part, right? We talked about the armchair part of things, the effort, the grittiness, the toughness, right? But when it comes to the emotion, guys continue to buy in and sell out. And that is that is what you hope in a college football team, but you don't always get there. There's always a jumping off point. And right now, you got that momentum. I don't see it derailing if things don't go well next week. By the way, everyone's invited. Everyone on this this post game, not the nation. Short ribs and baby backs at the Schmidt House.
Hey, I'll bring my world famous mac and cheese.
Yes,
too.
you will.
Hey, listen, I got mac and cheese. I'll make that happen.
You got the mac? I got to find something. I'll make something.
Why don't you buy a side? Foxy, why don't you bring the side of beef? I'll provide the smoker.
Yeah, but I know a place that provides mac and cheese. So.
All right, well,
yeah.
That makes sense.
We need chicken sandwiches too.
Look, see, I was hoping you could provide whatever you were drinking tonight. I was hoping that could be your counter.
There is none left.
No, there's none left. I gotta go to the store a little bit. So.
Yeah, we need some slim chickens in that mix, I think.
Tim,
free shout out Friday.
Thank you.
Wow, shocking. The bottom line sponsored by Slim Chickens.
There you go. Perfect. Hey, by the way,
no, the emotion. The emotion, I don't think leaves when and if this winning streak ends. We call it a streak. It's 2 in a row. I think we can call it a streak.
Hey, it's the longest winning streak Nebraska's had in a while, at least in conference play.
Yeah, listen, I want to ask you guys this. So you're talking about the next 3 wins, right? You got teams out there like Purdue. They're not great. We have emotion. You have Wisconsin, they're going through what we're going through, right? With Jim Leonard now at the helm. They're reeling. Yet Iowa, who has an inept offense as we do, are there 3 wins right there? Is that possible?
I lost the last part.
Hooksy is now gone. But the heart of the question was 3 wins to get to bowl eligibility. What's possible? What are the 3 you're looking at?
Man. I don't know. I mean, I think you could beat Illinois. I think you could beat Minnesota, but
as crazy as this sounds,
you could beat Wisconsin.
Your 3 might be Wisconsin, Iowa, and Purdue. That might be the 3 you need to get. And it's crazy that Wisconsin and Iowa might be 2 of those in there, but
those are tough. Based on tonight, those look tough.
I would go, I don't know. Minnesota looked pretty pedestrian after they lost that running back.
They'll be healthier.
So without
presumably
that running back, they put a lot of pressure on that quarterback, which I think he's good in play action. I think he plays well off of that system, but I don't think he's a guy that can go and lead that without a solid running game. So I will see how that if what's his, I'm sorry, I'm losing his name, but if he runs, he's a really good back. I know he got injured last year. He got injured last week and didn't return.
Ibrahim.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So if he's back or if he's limited, I think that maybe brings Minnesota back to the middle of the pack. Again, I think the West is wide open, but I think Iowa's beatable. I think
with Iowa,
Purdue's a toss-up for me. Illinois could go either way. I guess Wisconsin, obviously, in turmoil, they may turn it around, but I don't know which one of those three. I just know they probably aren't going to beat Michigan because Harbaugh is going to bring out the whipping stick and the whipping britches, and he's going to get his pound of flesh every time he plays Nebraska because he's still pissed off about that national championship that he thinks he won.
Well, I'm just Nebraska could get Illinois. I mean, Illinois doesn't wow me. And here's the other part of it.
Here's the thing. Illinois doesn't wow me either, but they've out-physicaled every single team they've played so far this season. I don't think Nebraska's going to go in there and out-physical them. And what I saw tonight was if Nebraska gets out-physical, they're going to lose a football game. That's
I don't disagree with you, but there's also the death march that is a Big Ten season, right? I mean, Illinois just got done grinding it out against Wisconsin. It's not vintage Wisconsin, but it's still big northern, heavy set Wisconsinites. They are going to take on Iowa at home. So that's Wisconsin, that's Iowa. Then they host Minnesota. They get a bye week, but still that'll recharge them a bit. But they have Illinois, they have Wisconsin, they have Iowa, they have Minnesota, they have Nebraska consecutively. Even with a bye week mixed in to rest up and ice up, that still is draining. That's a meaty part of the schedule. It's not if you can beat them on a given Saturday. A lot of the part of it to me is when do you get them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that is always about depth and what's third team look like, because you're going to need a third teamer to come in and play well for you on the line of scrimmage somewhere along the way. To Minnesota, to your point about Minnesota, they're very average without Ibrahim. They lost last week, had no business losing last week to Purdue.
Huxley, we kind of lost you. What were your 3 picks?
No, I just think that there's games out there. Like you got Wisconsin that's reeling. They're like us. They have a new coach, right? They have an interim tag. And you have Illinois out there. You have Purdue who's okay. And then Iowa. And Iowa doesn't do anything for us. Now, there's games out there to win the West right now.
I'm not winning the West. I'm just going to a bowl.
Yeah. Huxley, drink it neat.
Listen, screw the bowl game. Let's be bigger than that. Nebraska's bigger than that.
7 years ago.
Yeah, maybe now. It's that time. And again, Chris, I love to talk about the energy part because I was concerned with this game based on when Trev was given the game ball to Mickey was that the pinnacle? Was that the top of the mountain? Right? Can you overcome that? And I think this team did tonight. This is a gritty football team. Whatever's happening right now, that momentum, that energy is building. And it could be special.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think the energy and I think the enthusiasm and the coaching gives them a lot of momentum going into Purdue. Even though the win's a win, I think they come in there with confidence, going, our defense is playing better. We're figuring out ways to win. I agree with Elijah 100%. The offensive line is horrible. I don't know if you're going to fix that.
Listen, Tim Bob, it's
sort of a free agent trade here mid-season. But there is enthusiasm, there's excitement. We won a couple. We won them back-to-back. We won a one-score game. I think that carries over, at least gives them an opportunity against Purdue in terms of their enthusiasm. And Mickey Joseph has found right now, he's pushing the right buttons. It's not perfect. He's still learning, I think, but I think he's got his kids playing with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. And in college football, you got to have some of that, along with luck and some bad officiating. Sometimes it goes your way.
Jeff chimes in. He says, "Come on, guys, don't put too much on these players to think about."
What? Come on, Jeff.
Hey, I'm kind of with Jeff here. It's a 1-0 mentality. Like, this team, you got to go to the locker room and say, hey, guys, the Big Ten West is still up for grabs, but that's not what our focus is. Our focus is going 1-0 this week.
Yes.
And Jeff makes a great point there. You're not putting too much on these guys. You don't want them going tomorrow on Saturday and watching all the Big Ten games and saying, we're hoping for a loss from Iowa, so that we're in a better spot in the Big Ten West. You don't want them focused on that. You want them to focus on their game against Rutgers. You want them watching film tomorrow, saying, what can I do better for next week? Starting to watch maybe just the Purdue game and saying, what does Purdue do well? And then you wake up Sunday morning, you can get some more film work in, get a rest day while you check out Purdue's film, and you look ahead to Purdue and say, Purdue is our only focus, because if we don't beat Purdue, we can't win the Big Ten West. That might be our end goal, but to get there, we have to go 1-0 every single week, and it starts with Purdue.
I'm about to sneeze. Forgive me.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, Gesundheit's right. No.
Bless you.
Here, let me ask this: can the offensive line get better? I mean, seriously.
No.
It's a question. It's a question. You made an adjustment at right tackle. Can they keep growing this season and get better, or are they screwed for 2.5 a carry and 7 hurts?
The best thing to do, we've talked about it before, an offensive line is like a brisket. You can't speed up the cooking process. Like with a brisket, you got to let that thing go low and slow for a long time before it's going to be ready. It's the same story with an offensive line. You got to let those guys develop low and slow for a while before they're going to be ready to go. I will say, you can get them better, but I don't think you can get them better to the point that they're not going to be the biggest liability on your football team this season. Can you get them to a point where they're less of a liability so that they know, hey, teams love to attack us with these stunts. Let's work on these stunts. Let's find 2 or 3 run plays that are our bread and butter. Let's get really damn good at those. Yes, you can do those sorts of things, but you can't turn a guy who is getting beat on 3rd and long consistently into a guy who isn't allowing any pressures. Like, you're not going to get them good, but you can maybe, with a lot of hard work and a lot of film,
get into 3rd and long.
It's going to take a Herculean effort, and it's going to take some help from guys like the offensive coordinator, guys who are on the offense. You're not going to get them to the point where they're not the biggest liability within your offense, but I think you can get them to a point where you're not clinched every single 3rd down saying, well, what's the offensive line going to do this time?
Well, I do think that your point there about figuring out what their strengths and what they do well, what they can do well, I think that is a place where you got to stop and go, okay, what can our players do that we can rely on, that they believe in, and that we can build on, and then work from there. And I think that's an important part of maybe how you can improve this offensive line. Not their skill level and not their experience level, but what are they doing well, and how can we make that part of the game plan?
Listen, here's the deal. I think a lot of this could be on whip, right? You figure out what kind of quick hitting plays, not 17-step drops or empty backfields, that you can have to make plays. Like, look, quick hitting plays to game plan around the offensive line. That's what has to happen. This line's not going to get any better. They are who they are. We have who we have. Whip, call a better game around this team.
Well, Tim Bob was on the move for a second, and now we've lost him, so we'll see what Tim Bob is up to.
Tim Bob needs ice.
Well, yeah, he needs ice. He's not like Hooksy, going neat right now.
11 tackles for Garrett Nelson tonight. Did pretty well uncontained.
And a big story moving forward is what's the status of Luke Reimer. He's a guy who was not on the field for the last few possessions of the game. Ateba Mauga-Clements was the guy who was in. Unsure what the status of Luke Reimer is. That'd be a huge loss for Nebraska if he's going to miss any time, but we haven't had any sort of post-game update from him. So curious what that's going to look like. Some other guys in the defense stepped up, but Luke Reimer, I think, has been your most consistent performer.
He's been your best defender.
I think that's a fair assessment. He's been your best defender all season long, and if you lose him, I mean, you saw last week what that combination of Henrich and Reimer back together did for your team. So if you're messing up that combo again, if it's Mauga-Clements coming in, it's not the same as Luke Reimer. Luke Reimer's a gamer. That's the best way to describe him. He's a gamer. He's not perfect, but he's going to go out there. He's going to make plays, and he wears that N with pride. And if he's going to miss any sort of period of time with an injury, that's a big loss for Nebraska. But Mickey Joseph's been instilling that next man up mentality within this team. And I think Clement stepped in tonight, and he did embody that next man up mentality. So that's a positive you can take away. But my concern is there with the health of guys, not only, I guess, like Luke Reimer, but also Travis Vokalek. He made that big third down catch, moved the chains, and then seemed to re-injure that left ankle that he hurt in the Northwestern game, which would be a big loss for Nebraska because I don't think they have any backup tight ends, barring maybe Fedoni coming back ahead of schedule from injury that can come in and fill the shoes of a guy like Travis Vokalek, but that could also be a huge loss for this Husker team moving forward.
No, it's going to be key, and with Reimer, God, you just can't lose him. Think about a key third down where he got off a block, made a tackle, stopped. I think it was Vedral short, and forced a kick. And that's just, he's playing a lot freer. And just quite honestly, the combination of him and Henrich is key right now because you don't have much going on with that.
There it is. Finally, been waiting on that one for a little bit. Schmitty, bless you.
We'll wrap things up here. Real Red Reaction going on.
Yeah, Schmitty, you and I got to get up early tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a 7 a.m. weekend edition of Hail Varsity Radio. We invite you to be a part of that. Cranack will join us. But we'll go around the room here. Final thoughts. And again, ugly, but ugly's doable in the Big Ten, and specifically in 2022 in the Big Ten West for Nebraska. They get it done. And this is, to your point, Tim Bob, going to go add some miles on for this Nebraska football team from a confidence standpoint.
Well, and I'll go with, attaboy to the coaches. I agree with Hooksy. It's a coming back with a 1-point win is a much better flight from that long flight back from New Jersey. I hope they take the momentum and continue to build. I don't think they're going to win the West, but I think if they could get bowl eligible, that would be just a huge, huge step, I think, for the fan base to get behind. And I think I like what's happening. I mean, Bill Bush is coaching good on the defensive side. Whipple is a master, again, other than fourth down and empty, I disagree with. But, they're getting it done. And one game at a time, day by day, I'm happy for the kids, and I hope they can keep it going against Purdue.
Final thoughts from me, man. If you would have asked me 14 days ago, I would have told you there's no way in hell this Husker football team is getting back to 500 this season. I am glad I am wrong on that point. Nebraska is back to 500 overall in the season. They're above 500 in conference play, still everything to play for in front of them. And just those words coming out of my mouth sounds wrong, but here we are. The Huskers found a way to win last week against Indiana. They found a way to win this week. The offense wasn't there, and when the offense wasn't there, the defense stepped up and really bailed them out. I mean, the defense came in and even bailed at the special teams. Bushini did not have his best night as a Husker tonight. He had a couple shanks, wasn't perfect by any means. I think he only pinned him down inside the 20 maybe once tonight, and the offense didn't help him out there with his where he was punching the football either. But The defense came in and bailed out a lot of this team. That's another thing. You would have told me 2 weeks ago that this defense was the group on the team that was going to come out and bailing out the other phases of the game. I would have called you crazy, but Bill Bush and those defensive players have really taken those lessons that they learned the first couple weeks to heart. They have improved. They've gotten better. They've simplified this defense. They're flying around. They're playing with heart. And that's a good positive sign for this Husker team moving forward. I'm not willing to put Nebraska in contention to go win the Big Ten West, but as of right now, they are number one. That is a huge positive. And at the end of the day, despite all the adversity, it felt like a Murphy's Law kind of game. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong for the Huskers, and they still found a way to pull it out. Does that mean I think that they're going to go and beat Purdue next week? Does that mean I think they're going to go have a phenomenal, magical movie script type finish to the season? No, I'm not going to say that either, but I'm going to enjoy this win while it's here. And I'll just say there is some hope within Husker Nation again, just for what this team can be this season. There's still a lot to play for, and there's still a lot of time to make improvements within this team.
This goes a long way into being the last man standing. Attrition is a very real thing in the Big Ten. It's a very real thing in the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
And you find a win like this on a short week, on a Friday night, against a team that just wants to beat the hell out of you after that start is the story. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 7, weekend edition of Hail Varsity. Big thanks to the great folks here at Hail Varsity Club for hosting us. We'll be back here for Purdue next Friday. Tim, Bob, appreciate you, Big Cat, for coming on in. And big thanks to you, Hooks, wherever you and your Morgan and Diet is.
I have a text in here from Hooks. Hooksy says to all Husker Nation out there checking in, drink it like him and drink it neat tonight and enjoy this win.
Be safe, be happy, and we'll talk to you in the morning with ESPN Lincoln. Thanks.